Hey everyone, welcome to our Powerful Devs Hack Together live streams. The Powerful Devs Hack Together is a 2-week hackathon for developers with the theme of building secure, scalable, and AI-powered enterprise solutions with the Power Platform. We have 8 categories and 4 live streams teaching you how to be a powerful developer. We'll have 8 cash prizes in these different categories like AI-powered solutions, Power Apps solutions, Best in Automation, and so many more. And you can win up to $550 in US cash prizes for the best projects in each of these different categories. We're super excited to have you join us for this hackathon. And now I'm going to turn it over to our friends at Microsoft Reactor.
Thank you, April, and hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us for the Powerful Devs Hack. My name's Anna. I'm an event planner for Reactor, joining you from Redmond, Washington. Before we start, I do have some quick housekeeping. Please take a moment to read our code of conduct. We seek to provide a respectful environment for both our audience and presenters. While we absolutely encourage engagement in the chat, we ask that you please be mindful of your commentary, remain professional and on topic. Keep an eye on that chat. We'll be dropping helpful links and checking for questions. Our session is being recorded. It'll be available to view on demand within 24 hours. With that, I'll turn it over to our speaker for today. Thanks for joining.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. Hello. I think I'm going to start by presenting myself so you know who I am, and then we're going to start the session. So, yes, and we are getting some slides on the screen. So, hello, everyone. My name is Denise Luna. You can see me there on the screen on the top photo. I'm a software developer that has been working on the Microsoft ecosystem for 12 years now. I started with CRM 2011 back in the day, and I haven't stopped since then. When I first started, I did a lot of plugins like C# .NET plugins, and that was my specialty, right? I was good at it. That was my main job, my background, to say. So when I was first introduced to Power Automate, I was a little bit iffy about it. I was a little bit iffy about the whole low-code processes and all of that because I was so used to plugins that I was like, why do I want to change? Why do I want to do with something different if I know already that this is working for me? But I give the benefit of the doubt. I start with it. I start with the basics, and soon enough, I start learning and getting all the benefits and learning all these tidbits and things that make these tools so awesome. And I start to look into how can I do how can I apply my background on these technologies. Later in my day job, I was actually assigned to a lot of Power Automate flows, and that's how I met my friend and colleague Joy, who's here with us.
Hi, everyone. I'm Joy Kirkwood, and I'm a Power Platform Solution Architect. I also started with the platform in 2013, and my first version was also CRM 2011. I actually learned that about Denise while we were prepping for this. So together we have a combined 24 years of functional and technical experience on Dynamics and Dataverse and Power Platform. So that's really exciting. The difference in our backgrounds is that I actually come from a functional background. I'm not a developer. I don't have a computer science degree, and I don't know how to do any pro coding. The thing that I learned on were the old school CRM workflows and dialogues. And when Power Automate came into play, it was a really natural move for me. But I still came in with that sort of functional low code mindset. When Denise and I met, we were working on a large scale development program, and we ended up collaborating on a set of coding standards for Power Platform. And that included Power Apps and Dataverse, but also Power Automate. And I have learned so much from Denise and all of her technical experience. And so that's why we wanted to present our session to you today, which is the developer's approach to Power Automate here for the Powerful Devs Hack Together conference. So our agenda, the 2 things that we want to cover, first, set up for success, quick tips for getting started. these are some best practices that you can apply to every single cloud flow that you make in Power Automate. Power Automate is a really powerful tool, and there are lots of different actions and sort of the inbuilt like conditions and data operations and syntax that you can use, and all of the data connectors. And you can do a lot with it, but you can sometimes create flows that are suboptimal in the way that they are designed. And even if they still run, even if they still do the job that they need to do, we should still aim for optimized, optimized and easy to read code in our development, right, Denise?
Totally. And that's about like the whole point of this is like we are using low code, but we don't have to put aside our basic instincts, our developer instincts, all those things that we know already and that we know that it's going to improve these processes. We don't need to forget about that piece, right? So that's the main idea here. Then we're going to talk about going one step further. We're going to talk about up-level our automations, how to apply the traditional project coding standards to this new world.
So I'm really excited that we're here for this topic, Denise, because I'm working on a Cloudflow that's not going very well, and I think I may need your help. So what do you have in the steps for success? Tell me more.
So, and the way, so I'm sorry, my throat's a little bit iffy. In my years working with the system, I have created many flows. I have seen many flows. I have code review many other flows. So I have seen a lot of things that happen. I have seen a lot of these things, how people create this a little bit different, all these things that we can do, right? So the Serve for Success area topic is going to be about all of these things that we need to do to ensure that we have a standardized process, that we are building our flows for success from the very beginning. This tool, Power Automate Cloud Flows, is going to let you do all kind of crazy things, and that can be good and bad because it allows for a lot of flexibility, but you can also do some damage with it. So
I think I might have done some damage with mine, so I'm nervous, but maybe at the end of this you can do a code review for me. But I'd love to learn from you first. So let's go ahead and dive in.
Yeah, let's dive in. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I thought a little bit lag there, but stay with me. So the first thing that I want to ask you, Joy, is: are you aware? Do you know what solutions are?
Solutions are the thing you put in Dataverse, and you get like all your tables and your choices and your apps and flows, and you use that to move them between environments, right?
Yes, that's that. So you're going to use the solution to move it with environments, with your containers. So these are really useful thing where you group your items, to group your components. It is really important with Power Automate Cloud Flows to create flows that are solution aware. This means that they are created, they are part of the solution, so you can move them to their environments. You can, everyone on the system can see them. So having a solution aware flow has a lot of benefits versus the personal flows or solution that you create outside the solution. The only way to get use of all of these features is to have them in a solution, to make them solution aware. That's kind of the first step. Then let's move to the next one.
Yeah, I knew that you needed it for moving stuff between solution or environments in ALM, but I actually didn't know that there were so many other features that you don't get if you don't put a flow in a solution, especially that new versioning feature. That's really exciting. So I think this is probably the first step, because I don't think I have a solution for the flow I made. We'll look later maybe. What else?
Yeah, that will be the first thing. That will be the first thing to check. So yeah, first of all, everyone just, every single flow should go into a solution. It's portable, has versioning, you can move it to the environments, everyone can see them, bunch of things. There's less limitations for them, bunch of those things. So now that you have your flow in your solution, now you need to consider your connections. There are two things here that you need to keep in mind, that you need to differentiate. There's something that is a connection, and there's something that is a connection reference. So similar names, but different things. Your connection is the piece that will hold your credentials to connect to another system. This can be a database, this can be SharePoint, this can be Outlook, anything like it. That connection piece will hold your credentials to that system, but it's not solution aware. And we mentioned that it's really important to have solution aware flow, solution aware everything, so you can have these benefits. So you want to create connections reference instead. A connection reference is like a placeholder between the connection and the action. So it will connect to your connection, it will link to your connection, but in a connection reference, so you can modify it easily. You can make it part of the flows. You can export it. All of these things are going to happen through your connection reference. When you create a flow and you don't assign a connection reference to it, the system will either create a connection for you, it will create a connection reference, so it will do whatever it fits best at the moment, and it will be different results. So it will create, if it creates a connection for you, it will create it in a non-friendly name. It's going to be something that is not part of your regular solution nomenclature. So it might be not a big deal, but it's better to be consistent, right? Then any change that you have to do on a connection, you will need to do it on the connection itself if you don't use connection reference. With connection reference, you only do it once. My recommendation here to get use of all of this is that as soon as you start creating your flows, first create the connection reference that you're going to use. You can create one connection reference for each one of your systems, each one of your targets, and then use them across your flows. You can use them over and over. If you need to change a credential, you will do it once, things like that. And talking about credentials, my recommendation will be to try to use a service account, a service principal, some kind of system credentials. So if something happens to the user that owns the connection initially, your flows will not be impacted. Otherwise, you might get, something might be not working anymore, it gets disconnected, gets deactivated, etc.
That's a really good tip. I can see why you would want to make them yourself so that you can get your right schema name and description and everything in there. If there's one thing that I have learned about Dataverse, is that once the schema name is set, you can't change it. So I do like this tip a lot.
Yeah, schema names, you cannot do anything with it anymore, so you will have a mix of prefixes that you don't create ahead of time. Yeah, that's important. And you're going to notice a pattern, you're going to notice a trend in my, when I'm explaining these things about consistency, right? I like to have consistency names, consistency schema names, consistency on all descriptions, everything. So it's really easy for everyone to understand in the future. You're not the only one managing these flows, managing these solutions. It's going to be people on your team. It's going to be someone in the future. And you want everyone to be able to understand what is happening at all times. So for this, my next recommendation is use descriptive names like everywhere. You want to stick to you want to decide on a naming convention for your platform, and you want to stick to it. So, for example, my recommendation, what I normally do is that all my flows names have the action of what the flow is doing, and it has appended the kind of trigger. So if it's an automated trigger, an instant trigger, or an execution trigger, I'm going to put it right there in the name, so I easily can find which one is the one I'm looking for. Now, you don't have to follow my naming conventions, but you want to do your own and stick to it across all your flows, across all your processes, so it's easy for everyone to follow. Like I mentioned, right? The flow name is one thing. You want to keep it descriptive, consistent, so everyone can see it. That also applies for the actions in your flow. So in this example on the screen right now, we see a flow that is named send email versus one that is named send welcome email to contacts automated. As your system grows, you're going to have a lot of flows, and likely you're going to send multiple emails. So if you only have one flow that is called send email, it's going to be hard for you to find the one that you're looking for every single time. And this applies also for the actions within your flow. So your triggers, your actions, anything inside your flow should be renamed and should be descriptive. By glancing the flow, if I open any flow that I haven't built and I see the names of the flows, the steps, and all of that, I should be able to figure out the purpose of it. Maybe I don't have all the details. Maybe I don't know, how it runs exactly, but I should be able to figure out what this thing is doing just by looking at the names there on the steps.
So I definitely didn't follow this best practice when I was making the flow. I may have done it in a rush over the weekend. But with all the default names, can I still go back in and fix it now?
You can. At this point, you can do it, but it will cost you a little bit more of time because any formula that you have already with the previous name, with the original name, you might need to go back and change it manually. So you're going to have to check all of the reference and make sure that you fix them because the system will not do it automatically for you. So you can, but it's going to be more complicated if you do it at the end. So my recommendation is to always rename as you go. You create one action, you rename that action, and you continue that way. So all your formulas are going to be real crisp, real clear, and you don't have the headache of going back and, renaming everything on the top.
Okay, that makes sense. I guess I'm too used to Power Apps and Canvas apps. If I rename something, everything gets renamed, even if it's in a formula. So the expressions in Power Automate are a little bit different. I'll have to remember that for next time.
Yeah, and you will need to go open every single thing to look for the right one. Yeah, it is not as easy as just renaming. Next tip I have for you is comments. Please, comments everywhere. You as a developer, you will not or you should not build code without comments because someone else will come and you want to know what is happening at other points. So same thing applies here on Power Automate. You want to add comments to your flow so it's real clear.
Why are developers always talking about code comments? I feel like if you wrote your action really well, shouldn't it be obvious what the purpose of it is?
No, you will forget. I assure you will forget. You're working on so many things that I assure you that 1 week from now, 1 year from now, maybe 2 hours from now, you will forget what you were supposed to be doing in that flow and you're going to have to go back. One good example that I like to use, because this is one big recommendation for me, is anything that is not clear, any kind of condition or comparison that you have that is not clear by seeing the value you want to comment. For example, if you have here on the screen, I have a comparison that says prefer is equal to 3. I will know what is 3 if I go back to this flow 2 hours later without my comment. I have a comment on the top that says prefer method contact is option set, 3 is equal to phone call. So that way, anyone that can come in the future will know that comparison means something. What does it mean? What is my comparison? Otherwise, you're going to have to go to your system, open everything, look for everything. So it's going to be time consuming. You can use comments for option sets. You can use comments for any kind of translation between an index value and a label. For formulas, because when you use Power Effects here, the formula can be super long and you're not going to see it till you hover. So you can put your comment there in the formula on the comments, so it's easy to see, things like that.
So you're saying that I need to go back into my flow and rename every action and add a comment to every single action in the flow?
Very simple. No, I'm just kidding. No, so you only want comments for the things that are not clear enough. If your action, if your name is already descriptive, if your action is very simple, you will need a comment. But you want to ensure that by combining the name and the comments, anyone is able to follow the path of your flow. Yeah, don't add comments just for the sake of adding them. That's just not necessary, but you will need them here and there.
I just checked over in the chat comments, and there's some folks that they feel our pain. They've had to be for renaming actions and expressions. You will forget what you're doing. Yeah, Polar Zombies, that's a great call out. We will forget. And so it is really helpful to put those comments in. So I'll do it. I promise. All right, what's next, Denise?
Everyone wants to say, no, I'm the owner of this and I will never know. We all do. The next thing will be your triggers and queries. You want to set those up correctly from the very beginning to everything. Like my recommendation in general is go build as you go, right? Don't leave it for later because again, you will forget or you will skip things. So your trigger. Your trigger is the thing that is going to define when your flow exactly is going to run. It is pretty unlikely that you want a flow that runs every single update on a record. Every single time a record is updated, you want to run something, that is more unlikely. More commonly, you're going to want a flow that runs whenever certain fields change, whenever certain particular event change, whenever the status change, something like that. So you want to build your trigger in a way that will only trigger when you actually need to trigger, when you actually need this to happen. That way you limit the times this flow is going to trigger over and over again. This avoiding of extra runs or the reason why you want to avoid it is because you can cause loops just by not configuring your triggers. Maybe I have a flow that is that runs whenever a meeting is updated, but somewhere there in my flow, I'm adding a note to my meeting. If I don't have any trigger filter on my flow, I will trigger myself. My flow will make an update, it will trigger my flow, it will make an update, it will trigger my flow. So it can call things over and over and over and over again. We want to avoid it. You also want to limit the data that you're pulling in your trigger and actually in all your queries. Most tables are going to have hundreds of fields. You normally you're not going to use hundreds of fields on your flow. So you want to use OData queries to limit the information that you're getting, so you have less. You're pulling less information into your flow. And you can also use expand. You can use expand to bring related data without making a second call. So with all of these tidbits, you can minimize the amount of calls, the amount of data you're pulling, the amount of runs, all of that.
So I understand that these are best practices, that you don't need the flow to run when you don't need to or make extra calls. And I mean, I understand you don't want to make an infinite loop. That's always been a good practice, not to bring the server or the data center down. But why do we need to be so conservative? What's the harm in doing an extra call or bringing in extra columns that we don't use?
It can impact you because every time a flow runs, every action your flow runs, every single step in your flow, even the runs, the time it triggers, counts. It counts as a billable action that goes against your total usage. So you do have a limited amount of requests that you can make to the system every 24 hours. So if you call your flow over and over and over again, you might hit that limit. So your flow will stop running till you get more queries. So you wanna limit that so you don't hit your limits. You don't slow down your system. You don't have throttling on the database. You don't. That's pretty much.
Okay. I mean, that seems really important. If there are a certain number of requests in a 24-hour period, that we do need to be a bit more conservative, and especially if we have a lot of those. In fact, there was a question in the chat about request limits from Power Tips, asking, are requests calculated by each Power Automate owner or the action, depending on the connection owner? And this actually depends on the performance profile of the flow, which has which is determined by the licensing. So each flow owner, you have these action requests by flow owner for some of the lower profile ones. And you can also get more requests by assigning a license directly to the flow with one of those per flow licenses. Now, we're not here to talk about licensing because that's really complicated. But I would recommend to look into the performance profiles. There's a great write-up in the MS Learn documentation. I'll see if I can get a link to that and put that in the chat, on the difference performance profiles and the throttling and throughput limits. Certainly something that we want to be careful with.
So, I have been saying you want to avoid extra rounds, you want to avoid extra loops, you want to avoid all of these things that will cause you at the end. One of the other sneaky culprits of these nested actions are on causing extra reruns are the nested loops. Whenever you have collections, you have collections that you need to iterate through, you can have nested loops that can cost your system time. They can cause performance issues and things like that. This happens commonly when you do retrieves, because a retrieve will always result in a collection, not in a single record. So you need to iterate that collection, then maybe inside that you need to iterate another collection, and this goes generating loops, sometimes without you even noticing. So when you are noticing that you are creating extra loops, when you are indenting, nesting loops one into each other, my recommendation is to step back, take a look at your logic, take a look at your flow, and see if you can change this, if you can avoid the loops by changing the logic a little bit. Sometimes it's as easy as go in your business model, table model, go with the lowest element instead of the higher. Things like that. You can also use branches, you can use conditions. So think how to switch your logic in a way that will avoid these nested loops. In the example I have on the screen, in the left side, I'm getting all the accounts on my system, and then I need to iterate through all the contacts on my on that account so I can update them. This is already generating a nested loop between my accounts, my contacts, and then for my update, right? A way to switch this just by changing the model will be I'm going to start my query on the contact. I'm going to get all my contacts, and I'm going to use an expand query to get the related account. That way, I don't have to get all the accounts and then all the contacts. I can get all my contacts and bring the information I need, and I can do my update directly without nesting control.
So based on everything that you've said here and on the last slide, it's important to avoid all of those unnecessary requests. And when we have to do multiple loops, like loop through all the accounts and then loop through all the child contacts, that's a lot of requests. And if you do, high volumes of transactions in the trigger, that could result in the throttling that you're talking about. I think I understand now.
Yeah, and even if you don't hit those limits, even if you don't hit the throttling issue, you will your flow will be slower, right? So it's likely going to do what you want to do, but it's going to take more time, it's going to take more action, it's going to take more requests, and it's going to be impacting the performance of your system.
Yeah, I just saw in the chat, Polar Zombies chimed in. As soon as you start nesting any loops, it gets crazy slow. So that's, performance is one thing, but efficiency is the other. Like, how long is it taking to actually run these transactions? That can have a pretty big impact. And I know from firsthand experience, because remember how I mentioned at the top of the call, like I worked on a flow over the weekend and it just didn't go so well. Well, I just did a quick load and I tried to load in just 100 contacts. And then the next day, I went in to look at my flow, and this is the notice that I got on the top of the portal. And I'm going to get in trouble if I can't fix this flow. Your flow is executing an excessive number of actions per day and reached 80% of the Power Platform request limits. Like 100 contacts, and it already used 80%. I definitely need some help.
Yeah, it sounds a little bit dramatic, right? So, but 100 contacts shouldn't be that bad. So what is your flow doing? Can you show me?
Well, so it's just supposed to send a welcome onboarding email when a new contact is added to one of our customers. And, if there are, we have different tiers, we have premium customers, we have most valuable customers, we also have some basic and free tiers. And I wanted to mention what tier they are, but like that's not working. And I also, I got the requests limit thing, which is not good. Like that's going to get me in trouble. But I also had customers report to me that they got the email a bunch of times, which is terrible. That was not supposed to happen. So let me show you here my flow, and how do I fix it? Where do we start?
Yeah, let's see. Show me your flow first.
Okay, it's over here.
So I'm noticing that you're right. Yeah, no, you're showing me my flows. That means that flow is not in a solution. That is your personal flow. If I wanted to go see it, I wouldn't see it on the system because it's only yours. So first thing, you want to put
I
it
mean,
in
I
a
know I'm
solution.
going to have to fix the solution and the connection references and everything, but that is honestly like so low on my priority list because my customers are getting duplicate emails. So I got to fix that like right now.
Okay, then let's go see it. Yes, but yeah, for the solution, fix your connection reference because I see right there that it's a connection. And then let's look at this flow. So show me your trigger.
So
Your
I use
name,
the added
your
modifier.
name is also, okay. Your name is also not, you didn't rename the flow, so I think it's the name of the trigger, like when you created the system, put that name for you. So you also want to change that. Okay, you said that you want to send an email whenever a contact is created, added to your system, right? Right now, your flow is running every time the contact is added, modified, or deleted. That means every time you change something in this contact, it's gonna send an email, even if it's
that
not the
explains
first
why
time.
they're getting it multiple times, right? Okay,
Yes.
well let's fix that.
Correct. Then you want to send an email only if you have an email address to send the email to. Otherwise, it
I
will
need to
fail.
filter it.
Yeah, you want to filter it in a way that you are sure that the contact has an email before you attempt to send an email.
Okay, that makes sense. So email
Yeah,
address
see,
one,
those
I
are-
remember that from my CRM functional days, is not equal to null, which is the OData expression. So got that in there. What else?
Yeah, let's see your condition.
So I need to check to make sure they want to receive emails. So it needs to be, I don't remember what 1 and 2 are. I didn't put a note, did I?
When did you create this flow?
Over the weekend. It's only
and you forgot already? I told you. You want to come in to say, yeah, what does that 2 mean? What does that 1 mean? Not even for other people, even for yourself. I won. Okay, so you're saying that you only want to send the email when the options are this and that. Okay, that's fine. Let's move forward.
So then I went and I get the accounts because I need the account level information because I want to reference what tier they are. So I'm using account rating for that. So I get the accounts and then I put the accounts, I make a variable so I can hold on to it because I need to make sure that the account is in fact the parent account. So I didn't put a comment on this one either. I'll just do that. So, that's the wrong comment, right? That's just authoring comments. So
yeah, those comments are not. Yeah, those comments are not going to be part of the solution. They're not don't get transport. So you want to use the one directly on the action.
Name equals parent account. So that's what. So basically, I want to look for the accounts, right? And I want to make sure that I'm getting the one that is the parent company. But I did this so that I could get the account rating code. And so then I put that in the variable. And then I want to make sure that I'm only sending this to the new contacts. So I need to go get the contacts too, and then make sure that we are checking to make sure it is the contact from the trigger here. And then finally we can send the email to them. And then if I open this up so you can see my description, I put the account rating here. And this is where it's just getting crazy. It's not working.
So I get your idea. The process is common, it's simple enough, but you're doing too many things. You're doing too many requests, you're doing too many retrieves. You are retrieving things that you already have in the context of the trigger. You are doing extra loops. I see that you're sending an account rating there directly, which is normally gonna be an index value instead of a label. So you're doing a lot of little things here and there that I think that is causing your trouble. Why don't we see one flow that I did for this similar scenario, so we can see a little bit of the difference. Go back to solutions, please.
So I can actually see it because it's in solutions. Yes. You don't have to share it with me.
I didn't share it with you, but it's in the solutions, so you should be able to see it. Open the first one, developer's approach, please. Go to your flows and open. Okay, this is a little test for you. Which one do you think is sending an email to my contacts?
I'm going to guess it's the one that's named send welcome email to contacts automated. Okay, I get it. I'll rename my flows when I make them, I promise. All right, show me what you did in this one. I'd love to see how you did it. So we'll just pop in and look at the logic, because I think the logics, I understand all the other, advice that you gave me, and I can do that. But I want to see the logic, because I think that's where I struggled the most. Okay, so you have the trigger. Oh my gosh, yours is so
Yeah.
pretty. Look at that. So
So from a
you're the
trigger,
select
yeah.
columns.
From a trigger, I already doing those. I'm getting my columns that I want. I'm doing my filter, so I ensure that that preferred contact method that you mentioned is what I need. Otherwise, I'm not even running this flow because they don't want any, right? So all of this can be done from the trigger itself. Then
Okay,
that is the
then you have
same.
a
I have a
variable for the
variable.
rating. How did you do the rating? Is it the switch statement? Whoa, this one's huge. What is this?
So
What does the
yeah,
switch
your
statement?
rating is what is what? Your rating is going to be an index value. So you don't want to send the customer an index value because they don't know what that means. So you want to translate the index value in your choice, in your options, to something that they can read. With a switch statement similar to like in JavaScript or any other language, you can say if this option is this, show me this label instead. So that's what I'm doing right now.
Oh, okay. I mean, that makes sense, but what if I had a lot more options? This would just take a lot of clicking. It seems crazy to me that we can pull the account rating, choices through, but we only get the number, we don't get the label. How do we get the label?
You actually do get it. You don't see it in the system. You don't see it directly in Panoramic as when you click on the options to see the dynamic content. You don't see it there, but in the connector, it's actually there. So you can get access to it if you use a PowerFX formula to get the formatted value instead of the regular value. I'm going to
Oh,
send you something to put in the flow so you can see it.
okay. All right. So this code that you texted me, so it's an expression, and I can just type that in here, right?
Yeah, put it on the expression side.
And okay. So
Notice how at the end it says formatted value. So all
yeah.
of those fields that are choices, option sets, things that may have a different value on the database than the friendly name are going to have this tag. So you can use
Gotcha.
that tag directly and it will translate for you.
So I can see here, like what you said about when you use expressions, the name of the step is put in there. And so this is the part that would break if I renamed this step. And so I
You will
can
need
just
to go
pull
here and
in
change the name. Yes.
the formatted value using that special syntax. Okay, cool. So there are some hidden fields that come through in these connectors that are not in the dynamic content. That's a really great pro dev tip.
Yeah, all the complex fields will have something similar. Sometimes dates, lookups, choices, all those fields.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much for all of that and for showing me a better way to set up the logic of my Cloudflow. I definitely see that I made some mistakes here that reached, this crazy message that I got. I never would have thought that I could use like an OData expression to pull through sort of almost like a hidden field from the trigger. That's a really good tip. And so I feel like I have a lot to learn from the developer's side. And so what else can you teach me? How else can I up level my automations and kind of move more into that developer mindset?
Yeah, I love that very understand. All those things that we covered already are kind of the basic things that you want to add on every single flow. And it will apply to most of the flows, right? You always want to have comments, you always want to have this here and there. But now we can move to a little bit upper level. We can talk about a little bit more on as a developer with these kind of standards that we have already and all of this, what we can do to implement this in Power Automate to do something more close to that. This will not apply to all your flows, but you can take, from all of these suggestions, you can take whatever it will fit for you. So yeah, I have a few things that I can show you. Let's go.
All right. Yes, please.
Can you put the presentation, please, or I can put it?
Yeah, we're going to be back in the slides. Thank you much.
Yep. So whenever you are working with connectors, you are working with data. You are working with external data, and this data can come on different formats. It can come in different way that you need to transform, right? You need to, whenever you're working with connectors, you are working with data that you probably need to manipulate, transform, extract information from, these kind of things. And it can come in different formats if it's coming from different sources. So you can use data operations to transform your data in an easy way without using a lot of extra stuff, without using a lot of extra steps. So data operations has a lot of little components that are different purpose for them. For example, you can use data operations to create HTML tables, so you can send them in an email. You can create CSV files. You can extract specific columns from an array. You can filter. You can do all of these kind of things. One of the things that I use the most is actually the most simple of those. It will be the compose. The compose is it's like a simple but powerful component that you have available, and you can do all kind of things with it. For example, in this scenario, let's say that I'm trying to get the first record, the first activity, or the latest activity from a collection. I'm going to have to use a retrieve because I don't know the ID for this item. I just want to know which one is the latest one, but I don't know the ID. So I can use my compose to get only the first element of this collection. So I have it right there without having to do any other transformation, without looping again, anything like it. I can use my compose to create a new kind of like a new variable for this collection with only my first element. I can take it a little bit further and use a parse JSON to parse that result, and that will appear on my Power Automate, similar to what you see in dynamic content when you do a retrieve, when you see every single record right there. If you do this step, you will see it also for this child record, which is really useful because you don't have to do an extra query. You don't have to hit the system again. You can have it right away. So there's a lot of little things that you can do with data operations. Like I say, HTML tables, CSV files, you can filter, you can do all of things. I do recommend everyone that is working in Power Automate to take a look at these operations. Some people don't use them, and they are really helpful.
I mean, this is a great tip. I've always wondered why, if I do like a top count of one, or I create a filter that's only going to ever return one record, I still get an array, and I still have to use, like, it automatically adds the apply to each and makes it just that much more complicated to work with it. So this example of how to use data operations, I think, is an excellent tip that I'm definitely going to use on my next Cloudflow.
Or in this one.
Or in this one, yes.
I believe in you. You can fix it. So my next tip is the try-catch logic. I think, like most people, is going to be familiar with the try-catch finally logic. This is part of most of the coding languages, And while Power Automate doesn't have it specifically called like that, you can build it with scopes. Power Automate has something that is called scopes, and you can use these scopes to group your operations. So with this grouping, you can create try-catch. The way you will do it, it's going to look on, I feel like this would be a better one example. So on the screen, on the left side, I have two scopes. In the first one, I have my try. These are the operations that I want to do, that I want my flow to do. Then I have a catch. My catch will only run if my try fails. And it's gonna, as you can see, I'm using data operations filter to filter all the errors that happen on my try. I'm also using a data operation to create HTML table to create a friendly table so I can send it on an email. So yeah, that's how you can combine a scope and data operations. Now, on the right side of the screen, you see how I configure those. My try is going to run, and then my catch is only going to run if my try fails. Otherwise, it will totally ignore that step. Finally, I have a third scope that is called finally, and it will run regardless. If it's failed, if it's successful, whatever happened before, it's going to do this because I want to have some control on what happens next. So this way, you can have your errors can be controlled.
Wow, I didn't even check for the possibility of errors in my flow at all. So what would happen? I mean, I would hate it if there was a flow error and one of my most valuable customers didn't get a welcome email. I wouldn't even know. So I definitely should go back and add the try catch scopes.
Yeah, once if a flow keeps failing over and over and over again, the system will send you a notification. It will tell you this flow is failing, please take a look, something like that. But it's not gonna be immediately, it's not gonna have all the details, it's not gonna tell you right away, and some of your customers will miss that email while this happens, right? While you get this notification. So yeah, it's better to have control.
All right. What's next?
So all the actions in your flow are going to run kind of like you see it on the screen. It's one after the other, one after the other. So it's a sequential pattern, right? Whenever you have actions that you can do independently, that they can run without waiting for the other one, you can do parallel branches. This way, each one of your branches are going to run independently. They are going to work at the same time. They are going to finish, and they're going to wait for the rest of the sister branches to finish, and then they're going to complete. So with these, especially with like large amount of data or many processes, this will speed your flow a lot.
So parallel branches, is that not degree of parallelism? Are those the same things? I thought I did turn that on.
Related, but not the same thing. Parallelism is set on loops or apply to each actions. So you're going to combine these two actually, depending on your flow logic. So the actions within a loop also run sequentially. It means that similar to the ones on the flow, they are going to run one after the other. So if you are trying to update 100 records, it's going to try to update the first one, the second one, the third one in order, right? By enabling the concurrency setting, which is a parallelism, you can set it up to 50. So it will try to do 50 by 50, 25 by 25, 10 by 10. So it's going to speed the time, especially with like large amount of data, it's going to speed the time of the flow. So by combining parallel branches and parallelism, you will speed your process up.
Okay, so parallel branches allow action chains to execute in parallel at the same time, and concurrency or degrees of parallelism are for loops that are processing rows of records at the same time. That makes a lot of sense. Can I use both of them?
Yeah, you can combine them. You need to set the concurrency control for every single loop. So you can have one that runs sequentially. You can have one that runs by 10 by 10. You can do these combinations.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, I do know that there was a lot of questions in chatter in the chat about child flows. So this appears to be a hot topic. So tell us more. How do you use child flows? What are they good for?
And I think this is what will resonate for people that have a coding background, right? You wanna avoid duplicating your work. You don't wanna build the same code over and over again because it's tiring, because you have it, because anything that needs to change in the process, you will need to fix it in several places. If something happens, you have several places to look at. So anything that is a repetitive set of steps, you can do a child flow for it. Anything that you're going to do over and over again, maybe there's a set of steps that are always happening at the end of your flow. You don't want to build this over and over again. You want to build a child flow and use it wherever you want. You can call a child flow from all the different triggers, right? I can call my child flow from different triggers. I can send parameters to my child flow. So my child flow can receive parameters. It will receive them from the parent, and it will respond to the parent. So a child flow may or not require a parameter. So I might need something from the parent flow to run, but it will always have to respond. A child flow, it needs to tell the parent if it was completed, if it was not, like any kind of, some kind of response. So you're gonna call your flow, your child flow, and you can send a parameter to it. And then in your child flow, you can receive the parameter, you can use it for your logic, and then you can send a response back. That way, if you need to change the logic on these, repetitive actions, you will only change it on the child flow. That will minimize maintenance of the flow, the error handling, all of this. So yeah, it's really, really cool to use child flows to anything that is going to be more than once.
And there were some folks talking in the chat about how child flows can help with really long running flows that are very long and complex. I really like the idea of making it modular, where different pieces of the automation are done in different flows that can really help break up an otherwise like monolith of a flow. Because I think even in the new designer, it can be hard to find your place in something that's really, really complex. But I also really like the idea of not having to create the same 3 steps, over and over and over in different branches and exit points. Just being able to call a child flow, and that way I only have one place I have to change it. To me, this makes sense because I like using components in Canvas apps for the very same reason.
Yep.
Well,
Same concept. You wanna anything that we don't wanna work extra. We don't wanna do the same thing. Yeah. You wanna reduce the things that you're gonna have to maintain. Definitely.
So, I mean, all this advice that you've given us has been amazing, and we're going so quickly because we only have an hour today. And I guess I'm still kind of wrapping my head around how we can use all of these different tips all at the same time in terms of like a real use case, right? Like I get the idea, but can you help make it real for me?
Yeah. I have a flow that I built for this example, and I can show it to you so we can see how all these things combined are taking place. So I'm going to tell you a little bit of my scenario. I have a system. A customer needs to close their account, and I need to close their account, right? So in order for me to close this, I want to close anything that is pending with this customer. I want to deactivate all the contacts that are part of this customer. I want to deactivate all the requests that they have open still. I want to cancel all upcoming meetings. So I want to do a lot of different things so I can close their account and I can finalize this process. So I actually have one example here of my parent flow and my shell. So I can show you that. On my parent flow, doing some validation. So I'm saying this customer in particular, they request to close their account, but I want to make sure, I want to see what kind of tier this customer is on. Because maybe if he's a premium tier or a most valuable tier customer, I don't want to close the account. I just want to schedule a call with them so I can understand why they want to close. So I'm gonna draw a condition here to say if this is one of those tiers, just schedule a call with them and stop the process for now. If they are not on those tiers, I do want to close the account. So I'm gonna call my shine flow that is receiving my account ID so I can close those items. In my shine flow, I'm receiving my parameter, I'm receiving my account ID, then pulling my account ID, and I'm getting, in my try, I'm doing 3 different actions parallel. I have parallel branches, so I can get all the open requests for this customer and deactivate them. I'm getting all the contacts and deactivating them. I'm getting all the meetings and deleting them. So these 3 things are going to run at the same time, are going to close all the pending items, and are going to come to my finally. If there was an error in between, I'm going to catch it right here, where I'm getting a table with the errors, what happened, all of that. And then it's going to go to create a friendly message for me. So I'm creating tables that says, show me all the requests that were closed, all the contacts that were deactivated, all the meetings that were deleted, and then send that to my email. I want to send maybe the admin, maybe the account manager, someone, the email that says this account was closed, and these are the details of the things that were closed, or the account was not closed because there was an error, so please take a look.
And we're coming to the end of our time. Could you show me some examples of what these HTML tables look like?
Yes. So let's say this run already, and the operation was not successful. It was not successful because something couldn't be closed. What will happen? I will get an email, like I said, and I have tables here that says, okay, these things were closed, this is what is happening, this is the error, all of this in friendly messages. So that's how you can.
So if you go back to that email, real quick, Denise, that was something that came up in the chat. Alex brought up that if you are finding that there's an error within a loop, you often get the top level error, which in this case says an action failed, no dependent action succeeded. You don't necessarily know what happened, but I think the benefit is that you get a much earlier and more contextual error message so that you can go in and see. And in this case, you cannot delete all of the meetings because one of those meetings has a referential restrict delete relationship to the account record. So if you know that that's one of the potential use cases, you could potentially insert a more custom user-friendly error message knowing that that is the business case. But I wanted to call that out because Alex definitely did point out one of the limitations in retrieving those error messages.
But also, if you play with the, sorry, I was meant to do that. I was meant to show one of the ones. If you play with the actions, if you play with the how you are retrieving this information, you will get that message at some point. You're going to have to look into the different operations. And this will get you the error message at some point. So this one, for example, I see it here. It was because a cascade delete failed due to cascade restrict relation. So you will need to investigate, like, how can I get to this message also, and not only the general one. But the message will be available for you by, filtering or playing around with it till you can get to this piece. But yes, at the end, you can send it a friendly email. You don't have to wait till the flow fails many times, and you get this kind of notification.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you so much for bringing that all together in that flow. We could go ahead and head back to our final slide here. And just wanted to thank everybody for your participation in this live stream. We have some good questions in the chat. One of the question comes from Facundo, who asked, why are we using the old designer in this example? And also, isn't it true that you cannot use Copilot and expressions in the old designer? One of the reasons we chose to use the old designer was simply because we have a lot to show, and the old designer will pop open and show you without having to click it into a side pane. So we thought it would be a little easier for just this compressed screen sharing. And truthfully, the reason is that Denise and I are both old school and we're having trouble learning the new designer. We'll get there eventually. And the next time we present on Power Automate, we'll use the new designer once it's fully baked. But that's a great question. Are there any other questions that anyone wanted to ask about? I think there was one earlier that was asking about the drafts and versioning feature for Cloud Flows. And I'll just go ahead, if we can put this link in the chat for folks if they want to learn more about that new feature. We haven't had versioning in Cloud Flows before, and that's been a bit of a pain. In that if you accidentally make a mistake, it's hard to revert back. So what a great new feature that we have access to for those solution-aware flows. Are there any other questions? We have about 3 minutes. I would love to take any questions that you may have or anything that we could show you in the sample flows that we did make for today's session. There's one question here. Can we use transactions to be sure every action is done correctly and ensure Dataverse consistency? I'm not sure what's meant by transactions. Denise, do you understand what's meant by transactions in this context?
So similar like in C# when you can do, I forgot how it's called, but like send a batch and it only creates them if all of them are successful. Otherwise, it will not create any of them. It will roll back. I don't think Power Automate has that. Yeah, in C# you have something that you can send 10 updates, and if one of them fails, it will roll back on those. So nothing is changed.
Do we have the idea of rolling back a whole transaction in Power Automate today?
Not that I know.
So sounds like that might be a product limitation, Wilman, for that question that you had. But if anyone else has any ideas, I would love to see those in the chat as well. Stephen Bailey asks, are there ways to test your steps without affecting production data? And I'll take this one. Certainly recommend a healthy application lifecycle management or ALM process. You can use developer environments to test your data in a test database, right? That can be more complicated depending on what services that you may be using. We showed Dataverse as our example today. And so each Dataverse belongs to its environment. So we were testing in our developer approach environment today. And if we move that to production, we'd be able to do the tests without affecting production. And I would recommend for anything that you are working on that you try to strive for that healthy, logical environment separation, whether you're using Dataverse or using separate lists in SharePoint, or you have any other line of business application to help you not affect production data, especially if you have flows that are intending to be far-reaching. We certainly don't want to repeat the mistakes of my flow, which was sending duplicate welcome emails 100 times to all of my contacts.
Oh, maybe they feel off with all the emails. Maybe they feel seen. That would be great.
Maybe they'll forgive me if I send out
Yeah.
an apology email next.
With the right label, please. So yeah, that's all we have prepared for you. Thank you so much for joining us. I don't see more questions on the chat coming up. Thank you so much. Again, my name is Denise Luna. I'm a solution developer manager at Avanade, and we have a great time preparing this for you, and I hope everyone can take a little bit of it and learn something about it.
Yes, thank you again. I've been Joy Kirkwood. I'm a Power Platform Solution Architect at Avanade as well. If you'd like to connect with us, our LinkedIn URLs are up here, and you can search for us by name. You can also find me over at joyofpowerapps.com, which I occasionally post to, mostly about Canvas apps and Dataverse, as those are my favorite products. But would love to connect with you. I know there's an outro video to tell you all about the Powerful Devs Hack Together 2025. So we'll go ahead and roll that. But thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining this session. We've got some next steps to help you continue on with your hack journey. First, if you aren't registered for the hackathon yet, make sure to head over to aka.ms/powerfuldevs/register to do that, because you must be registered in order to be eligible for the hack. Also, the Power Platform Advocacy team has curated some learning resources for you to learn more about what's possible in the Power Platform and get inspiration for your hack projects. Head over to aka.ms/powerfuldevs/CSD to check those out.
And as you start working on your hack projects, you might have some questions that come up. We've got a discussion section in our GitHub repo that we're monitoring, where you can ask your questions at aka.ms/powerfuldevs/discussions. Or if you prefer to talk to someone, you can attend some of our live office hours on Discord. Just go to aka.ms/powerfuldevs/office hours to see when those are running. Now, your hack submissions are going to be due by February 28th at 11:59 Pacific. To submit your project, head on over to aka.ms/powerfuldevs/project submission and fill out the submission form. And don't forget to fill out the badge submission form as well if you want to receive a badge for your submission. And finally, don't forget to join our remaining live streams to learn more about how to be a powerful developer. And don't worry, if you miss any of these live streams or just want to catch up on our Powerful Devs conference sessions, you can watch them all on demand at aka.ms/powerfuldevs/on-demand.
Thank you all for joining, and thank you to our speakers. This session is a part of a series. To register for future shows and watch past episodes on demand, you can follow the link on the screen or in the chat. We're always looking to improve our sessions and your experience. If you have any feedback for us, we would love to hear what you have to say. You can find that link on the screen or in the chat. We'll see you at the next one.